Welcome to Fun Facts Daily, your source for just the good stuff. Monday through Friday, we're bringing fun facts and news you can use, all carefully curated to uplift and inform. So give yourself a break, relax, and learn something awesome in just a few minutes every day. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Wood, and today we're going to be learning all about Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. But before we get into the facts, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge to see if you can tell fact from fiction. Consider this. We all know Lincoln famously wore that towering stovepipe hat, but legend says he actually used it as a makeshift briefcase to store important letters, legal documents, even banknotes while walking around town. What do you think? Would a busy lawyer and eventual president actually rely on his hat as a filing cabinet? We'll find out at the end of the episode. Now for your word of the day. Our word for today is autodidact. That's AUTODIDACT. An autodidact is a person who is entirely self-taught in a subject, having gained their knowledge through independent reading and study rather than through formal classroom instruction. When we think of brilliant historical figures, we often imagine them as attending prestigious academies, but an autodidact relies purely on their own relentless curiosity, discipline, and personal drive to master new skills and acquire deep wisdom. The word autodidact comes from Greek roots, combining autos, which means self, and didactos, which means taught. So, autodidact literally means self-taught. There's arguably no greater autodidact in American history than Abraham Lincoln. Despite possessing one of the sharpest legal and political minds of his era, Lincoln only had about 1 year of formal schooling throughout his entire childhood. He taught himself everything from grammar to the practice of law simply by borrowing books from neighbors, studying by the light of the fireplace, and devouring every piece of printed text he could get his hands on. Time for your daily high five, our top 5 fun facts about Abraham Lincoln. Number 1. Abraham Lincoln was the first U.S. president to ever hold a registered patent. Lincoln was not just a great speaker and politician, he was a lifelong learner with a deep fascination with mechanics, engineering, and really just wanted to understand how things worked. Lincoln received patent number 6469 for a clever mechanical device designed to buoy vessels safely over dangerous sandbars. He was inspired to invent this mechanism after experiencing the deep frustration of riverboats getting repeatedly stuck in shallow waters during his early days working on flatboats. To properly demonstrate his idea, he meticulously carved a small wooden scale model of the ship and its expandable, inflatable bellows. Although Lincoln's clever buoyancy device was never actually manufactured or used commercially, his original wooden model is still proudly displayed at the Smithsonian Institution today. Number 2. Long before he lived in the White House, Abraham Lincoln was a fiercely competitive and highly successful wrestler. As a young man living in New Salem, Illinois, Lincoln's incredibly long limbs and physical strength made him a truly formidable opponent in the local wrestling ring. He regularly competed in intense catch-as-catch-can style matches, which were exceptionally rough, completely unscripted, and highly demanding. Historians estimate that he wrestled in about 300 matches over a period of 12 years, remarkably only losing just one single bout. His reputation as a tremendously tough but fair competitor earned him immense respect and admiration among his peers. His most legendary wrestling match was against a notorious local bully named Jack Armstrong, who was the rough and tumble leader of a gang called the Clary's Grove Boys. While the exact historical details of the match are heavily debated by scholars, the general consensus is that Lincoln firmly held his own and eventually won Armstrong's lifelong friendship. In 1992, Lincoln was officially recognized for his outstanding athletic prowess when he was formally inducted into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Number 3. Lincoln inadvertently established the precedent of the presidential turkey pardon because of his son's beloved pet. In late 1863, a beautiful live turkey was sent to the White House with the firm intention of being served for the Lincoln family's grand Christmas dinner. But Lincoln's young son Tad quickly adopted the bird as a beloved pet and cheerfully named him Jack. Tad taught the turkey how to follow him around the sprawling White House grounds, becoming incredibly attached to his new feathered friend. When the White House cooks finally came to prepare the holiday meal, Tad tearfully and passionately pleaded for his pet's life. He argued that the bird had as much right to live as anyone else, and his father was moved. President Lincoln actually took a momentary break from his important wartime duties to issue a totally official written reprieve for the bird. He formally wrote out an order of executive clemency, permanently sparing Jack's life and allowing him to happily live out his days on the White House lawn. While later presidents in the 20th century officially cemented the modern Thanksgiving turkey pardoning tradition, Lincoln was genuinely the first executive to spare a holiday bird in this specific manner. Number 4. You might say Abraham Lincoln was the first wired president using the telegraph, much like modern-day email. During the devastating years of the Civil War, Lincoln quickly recognized the strategic value of the newly invented telegraph and integrated it heavily into his daily routine. He spent countless late-night hours sitting in the War Department's telegraph office, eagerly awaiting vital news arriving straight from the distant front lines. Rather than waiting agonizing days or weeks for handwritten letters or tired messengers, he could communicate with his field generals in real time. He personally sent nearly 1,000 telegrams during his presidency, directly ordering troop movements and relentlessly asking for immediate tactical updates. This direct line of communication completely revolutionized how the commander-in-chief managed ongoing military operations. It allowed him to project his presidential authority directly onto the chaotic battlefield, a powerful concept that had simply never been possible in any previous conflicts. And our fifth and final fun fact for today: Abraham Lincoln grew his famous beard after an 11-year-old girl wrote him a letter suggesting it. During the intense 1860 presidential campaign, Lincoln's highly recognizable face was completely clean-shaven, or at least it had been until an 11-year-old girl from New York named Grace Bedell saw a printed campaign portrait and decided to write a personal letter directly to the Republican candidate. She politely suggested that he should let his whiskers grow out, creatively reasoning that his face was too thin and that all ladies simply loved beards. She even enthusiastically promised to try to get her older brothers to vote for him if he followed her fashion advice. Lincoln was said to have been very amused and genuinely touched by her sweet note, and he actually wrote her back a few days later, questioning if people would think a beard looked kind of silly on him. But shortly after officially winning the grueling election, he quietly began growing out his facial hair during his long train journey from Illinois to Washington. When his special inaugural train temporarily stopped in Grace's snowy hometown, he specifically asked to meet the young girl just so he could proudly show off his brand new whiskers. Now for some news you can use. If you ever find yourself frustrated or angry with someone, try using Abraham Lincoln's famous letter technique. Whenever Lincoln was furious with a general or a politician, he wouldn't immediately lash out. Instead, he would sit down and write a scathing, emotionally charged letter detailing exactly how angry he was. He would pour all his frustration onto the page, but rather than sending it, he would fold it up, put it in his desk drawer, and wait until he had completely cooled down. More often than not, Lincoln never actually sent those fiery letters, and historians have found many of them in files simply labeled "never sent" and "never signed." This is a brilliant trick because the physical act of writing helps you process your overwhelming emotions, and it provides a healthy, therapeutic release of your anger. By forcing a delay between his emotional reaction and his final action, Lincoln prevented himself from making rash decisions or permanently damaging important relationships. Because very often, it's better to direct your angry words at the page instead of a person. Finally, the moment you've been waiting for. At the beginning of the episode, I asked, could it be true that Abraham Lincoln's iconic stovepipe hat was actually used as a makeshift briefcase? This one's a fact. Because briefcases weren't common during his days as a traveling lawyer, Lincoln genuinely used the inside of his tall, silk stovepipe hat to hold legal documents, banknotes, and letters. The hat was about 7 or 8 inches tall, giving him plenty of space to stack folded papers safely above his head. He was also known to walk long distances and sweat quite a bit, so he frequently took off his hat to wipe his brow, allowing him to easily access his, quote, filing cabinet on the go. And it wasn't limited to his days as a country lawyer. He carried this quirky but highly practical habit with him all the way to the White House. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about Abraham Lincoln with me today. Be sure to tune in every weekday for even more fun facts. Fun Facts Daily is an Airwave Media podcast. It was written, recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Kyle Wood. Thanks for sharing a part of your day with me. Be sure to follow Fun Facts Daily on your favorite podcast app so you can keep the good stuff coming your way every day. And if you like the show, please do me a favor and leave a kind rating, review, or just tell your friends about it.